and we'll talk about our junior. These are our current seniors. And now I like to compare apples to apples. We do have some information in here with comparison of BOAS to the state, but he will share with you our pre-ACT results for this year's seniors, their scores last year, and the information, how we compare to the state.
I do want to thank Mr. Hayes for just letting me take part in this. I've been teaching in BOAS for a long time now. I came back full-time in 2008, graduated in 98, and so I've been a pirate for a long time, been teaching here for a long time. But it's my first data day, so glad to be here today. And I also want to echo what Ms. Franks was saying about, you know, of course, in the process of me doing this administrative certification, I've been looking at a lot of data and even making a lot of reports myself. And it's exciting for me to see the improvements and the growth that you guys are having below us, because I know that that means that when they get to us, they're just going to be that much further along, and it's going to help our data too. And so that's great. And I love that we celebrate growth as well as achievement, and not only celebrate it, but incentivize it and focus on that. But we'll get into this. These are our current seniors. And as Mr. Hayes would like to, Mr. Hayes said we'd like to compare apples to apples, and what he's talking about is, so the seniors, this is their ACT data from their junior year, 21-22, you see that. This was their pre-ACT data from the 2021 year, so we can kind of see how that actual class grew, as opposed to comparing one year's class to the next year's class. And so in 2021, when they took the pre-ACT, we see that you only had 3.9% of them meeting all 4 benchmarks. But then when they took the ACT their junior year, there was 7%. There you go. Blow it up a little bit. Yeah, I know you guys can't really see that unless you have it pulled up. Quit vibrating there for a minute. I thought I was passing out. Equilibrium's off. But anyway, so ultimately this is, and like we was talking about growth. So 3.9% meeting all 4 benchmarks up to 7. So that almost doubled in the percentage. So the growth there is key. We're still 1% below the state average meeting all 4 benchmarks, but we're well on our way. And I want to say something about the initiatives in a minute. I hope I don't forget that Mr. Hayes has brought to the high school in regard to ACT, because that's something that I've thought for a long time. Not that other people didn't try to do things to improve it, but I don't know that we've ever seen it on the scale that we're seeing it now here at the high school. So I've been glad to see that. That's something that I actually said to him in our end of the year meeting last year. One of the things that I brought up is something I thought we could grow, focus more on the ACT, and he said, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a huge part of our continuous improvement plan, and it certainly is. But anyway, I'll try to hurry on. I also preach, so sometimes I can be a little bit lengthy, so I'm trying to hurry on. And you know, you would think preaching you wouldn't get nervous getting up in front of a group of people, but it's so different getting up in front of a group of your peers, you know, other teachers and administrators, things like that. So just being honest, you may not can tell it, but I am a little bit. So anyway, 6.4% met their benchmark in math on the pre-ACT. But then you go over to the ACT their next year, 15% met the benchmark. So our math gains have been great too. So that was even more than double the number there meeting the benchmark. Going on to science, 8.9% on the pre-ACT, but then that same group came back and 17% of them met the benchmark in science on their ACT. And you notice that in math and science, we're actually ahead of the state average. So that's something to be celebrated as well. As you move on to English, 20.7% as sophomores on pre-ACT, but then as juniors, 30% of those met their benchmark for English. We're still below the state in English, but that's still that's actually a 50% increase there, because we gained 10 percentage points off of that 20. So then in reading, 30.8%. This was, I think, the only one that we dropped in. 30.8% met the benchmark on pre-ACT, but only 25% on the ACT. We're still above the state average there, but as Mr. Hayes mentioned, you know, there has been an influx of students that don't even speak English at all, or are really considered non-speakers, EL students. So I guess we can go, those were our seniors. We can go to the next slide.
And while he's doing that, I want to bring up that there's a 40-year low on the ACT right now. So if you watch the news lately, they've been talking about it a lot across the nation, 40% drop. So that alludes to some of this too. So we're not the only ones that are seeing some drops, but we're addressing them, so that, we always look at that plan for that. But I mean, across the nation, there's a 40% drop in ACT
We
scores.
gotta think too, that we haven't always tracked every single student.
That's true too.
Very few states require
The ACT.
their students to all take the ACT regardless of, you know, whether they go to college or not.
Absolutely.
It's a very, very difficult,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because when majority of us, well, or a lot of us graduated, the people that took the ACT were the ones that went out and paid for it themselves and took that over at State or wherever. It certainly didn't come to me, and I didn't get to do it for free and all of that, but, so then there were a lot of students that weren't planning on going to college. That data would have never come into play. But, these are the juniors, actually. This is just a data snapshot here, pre-ACT, longitudinal data snapshot here. And at the time this was done, at the first of the year, we had 5.5% meeting the benchmark in math, 4.3 in science, 8 in English, 21.1% in reading, but and then 4% I think there. Well, actually 2.4%. Well, no, I don't think we had one for all four sections. But anyway, what I was going to say is there's also still about 9 weeks worth of learning that can go on, and not only learning, but we've implemented ACT style bell ringers into the classroom, and that's really being done school-wide now. We've got really 3 different programs, depending on what grade the students are in, that we're implementing as well. That's really totally designed just to help improve ACT scores. But now these juniors can also do after-school tutoring. There's a state-provided program that we're using with them, and so I say all that to just say that I hope by the time that they actually take the ACT in the spring, that they've made a lot of improvements, and we're certainly making a big deal out of it over at the high school. Did you have something you want to pick back on up there?
No, I'm just saying, I look at that, and that's from October, 10th grade year. These are our current juniors, so we talk about three weeks worth, three more 9 weeks worth of growth, not to mention almost an entire year this year. And so we expect to see that change, and I'm gonna share some data with you. The thing about it is, when you talk about ACT, we've got ACAP and iReady and all that stuff kind of matches up. ACT's really been the Wild West, and honestly, it's a money-making scheme. Now, I'm just saying, those of you that have had students and you wanna get them, you wanna pay for them to get tested, you wanna pay for tutoring is something we've been offering for free at the high school the last 2 years. And we're incorporating it into the school day as well. Mr. Jones has done a great job with our math department doing that, and then of course we're talking too. The expectation is, we do have a little bit of change in lingo when we move from ACAP to ACT. That's something that we're investigating, exploring with our middle and high school folks. But there's been nothing to really help kind of pull everything together. We had Scantron, it's out the window. So what we talked about, Dr. Walton and I, and several of our Misty curriculum folks, just what can we do? What can we bring in to help our kids start thinking and preparing at the 9th grade for the ACT that we're gonna give to them as a junior? Research shows the more you can, the earlier you can start exploring where they are and what they're able to do, the better prepared you can make them by their junior year, by the time it counts, right? So one of the things that we did, and we're gonna get into that here in the next slideshow. Can you go ahead and go one? Okay, so we, this year, not really knowing what's out there, we've done some work with College Prep Alabama already. They provided some summer ACT tutoring, and we showed good results. Our students who took the advantage of the tutoring showed good results on the ACT. So it's like, we're gonna try them out. We'll try them out in 10th grade. And then we had another group called Horizon Education that we were gonna try in the 9th grade. And all that we were looking for, was a benchmark, a tool that would show us where our kids are, what they know, what they're able to do in 9th grade, and it could give us some data points that we could then, or standards that we could then match up with the standards that are being taught in the classroom. Hence the ACT bell ringers and matching that information up with what we're teaching every day, right? So, pre-ACT August data snapshot. This is what we're looking at here. You can see